Because when I tell you they didn't change the script, so we're going to go over the narrative that was being played that led me to choosing the Bears. Because the narrative for the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers having his MVP year, the narrative for these guys going into the playoffs was for him to play a top defense, where he would have a big performance in the playoffs against a good defense to validate his MVP season. Now, I fell for the bait because although they had just kind of demolished the Bears in Week 17, the narrative in the script was still pushing and highlighting the Bears' defense and the Bears as being the potential rematch and threat to Aaron Rodgers. Now, when you look at it, of course, now in hindsight, we all see, of course, that was wrong, but the story still remains as Aaron Rodgers is going up against the Los Angeles Rams and their dominant defense. And the script is reading for him to have a big win, a big convincing win, and perform very well and validate his MVP. Tampa, that was it, so we'll move over. We'll come back to the NFC when we talk about the second round, but we're going to go and see what happened on the AFC. Because remember, again, on the AFC, I'll let you know because they were already highlighting and spotlighting two scripts on the AFC, which was the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens, which actually makes sense that it would be those two, with this being a year of Cleveland being under the spotlight, that the other team they would have under the spotlight would be the original Browns. It's not a coincidence, and I'm going to go over both of their stories. But remember, I told you it was up to what happened with the Bills and the Colts because they're running two stories. And for the Browns, they needed the Colts to win for them to complete their story. While for the Ravens, I told you if the Colts lost, the Ravens would be the team to watch because what that win for the Bills did was it gave the Ravens an opportunity to play every playoff game on the road, which is very important. Because something, if you've been paying attention, if you're watching, something that you'll hear a lot, and you've probably already heard a lot, is the word kryptonite. And this is not just pertaining to Lamar Jackson. The word kryptonite has been used for a few different teams because kryptonite is one of the themes of this year's playoffs. And let me explain. What happens for Lamar Jackson, a.k.a. Superman, his last 2 years in the playoffs, they believed that they found this kryptonite. They thought it was playoff games. However, we see it's not playoff games because he's just won one. They thought it could have been the Titans. We see it's not the Titans because he's just beat them. He said himself his kryptonite was the Chiefs. We're going to see that it's not the Chiefs because Lamar's kryptonite isn't any of those things. What Lamar Jackson's kryptonite is home playoff games. Lamar Jackson's kryptonite is home playoff games. And as long as he's playing on the road, you're going to see Lamar Jackson perform at a high level. Each week getting better and better. Like this week against the Bills, he's going to have a better outing than he did last week against the Titans. And with Lamar Jackson's story and the Bills winning, sending him to be on the road for the rest of the playoffs if the Chiefs are to beat Cleveland, Lamar Jackson won't have to worry about another home game until he's playing in the Super Bowl in his home state of Florida, which is when you'll see his kryptonite come back in. This is the story that is now in play with the Bills winning, leaving Lamar a chance to play on the road. And now with the Browns playing Kansas City in the second round, in which, by the way, the script always had the Browns losing to Kansas City in the playoffs. However, for them to complete that transformation, beating both of their big brothers, it would have been for them to lose in the AFC Championship, which we know is not happening now because they're playing them in the second round, which means that Cleveland Browns and their fans will get a little taste and a little resurface of the Browns being the Browns. But again, staying on trend, they're going to be protected by the narrative because what you're going to see from the script, what it's laying out right now, like I said, believe it if you want, but it has the Browns returning to the Browns, but being protected by blowing a lead against Kansas City, but having the narrative protect their status once again, even through a loss, by justifying it because it's Patrick Mahomes, who's made a living in the playoffs off of coming back on teams. So we're going to see the Browns blow a lead, but we're not going to see them be punished and scrutinized for it. But also, here's where it gets a little tricky. And you can believe me or not, but I told you they're running multiple stories on that AFC with the Ravens and the Browns. Because the Bills win strengthened the Ravens story by putting them in a situation where they could play every game on the road. But what they've also done is they left the door open for Cleveland's story to continue, but only for Cleveland to make a Super Bowl appearance, which is something that I've never seen come up in the script this year, which is why I haven't had Cleveland Browns going to the Super Bowl. But there is a small factor that does connect to Baltimore as well as Cleveland when it comes to the racial tension and the political tension that we have going on right now. And Lamar Jackson, a black quarterback playing in Baltimore, one of the cities with the highest population of black residents, as well as Cleveland Browns, who in a sense do represent black people in the way that they've been shitted on, for so long. And it is that connection that the Cleveland Browns have, basically the black folks of the NFL, that gives them a slight chance of appearing in that Super Bowl during this racial tension time, which is going to be against white America. So with everything, the script is pointing to Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl appearance, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if Cleveland snuck in there. But I'm going to continue to go with what the script is telling me, but we've seen how it's been doing. But I'm telling you that it has the Ravens going to the Super Bowl, playing every game on the road, beating the Bills, beating the Bills, then the Chiefs. It's calling for Tom Brady to outplay Drew Brees because Tom Brady has the biggest script of all. This is, I haven't mentioned him at all. I haven't talked about him at all, but we can go ahead and get down to it. It really doesn't matter anymore. But it has Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl. Yes. That Kill the Legends tour, yeah, it's going to be for Tom Brady, not Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers' year was last year, which we stepped in front of and messed that up because he was supposed to be a champion defending his crown going against Tom Brady. This year, it has Tom Brady finishing the way that Roger Goodell wanted him to finish as the greatest athlete of the generation. And, putting the exclamation point on it by winning without Coach Belichick. And this is very important because it's more profitable for them to promote the player than to promote the coach. You see, years before Goodell, it was always about the coach. Goodell has done this with the Patriots. This has all been intentionally to show that Tom Brady, the player, the quarterback, was actually the most important piece in those dynasties. This is what it's all going to come down to, because they can sell you players better than they can sell you coaches. But if you look back, all of the dynasties, it's all headed by a coach. It's all the coach that's in front of it all. But Roger Goodell, who's had his mind set the entire time that he's been there on creating a superstar that would be the biggest superstar in any team sport, So you got Tom Brady, who's going to go down as the greatest athlete of all time. All right, so we went over a lot. I've been talking a lot this one. I know. But I want to just look into a couple of these games real fast from last week. Because something stood out to me, when I was watching the Browns game in that first play, something jumped out at me. Because I tell you guys all the time that they love to recycle these stories. Because they run the same stories, they just replace the faces. And this is not just for the narrative, this is also in games, in game situations, And that brings me to this play from Cleveland Browns to start the game, because the second I saw this, I said, whoa, this looks familiar, right? And then I went back and I looked, because you guys remember this, right? With the Broncos and the Seahawks, first snap of the game, over his head. This one went into the end zone and they got the safety instead of the touchdown. But then, you look at the Steelers after the Browns come right out and get a big play. Then you look at the Steelers on their next drive and you get Big Ben, making another mistake. The same thing that we get from Peyton Manning in this same game when these guys are scripting a blowout. Steelers killing themselves, shooting themselves in the foot, making a bunch of mistakes on their own. These scripts play out over and over. They recycle these things because they get a lot of excitement from them. They get high ratings from them, and they're going to bring it back, man. They're going to bring it back. It's the chair upside the head, man. You see it all the time, right? Or the high fly off the buckle. Yeah, I'm going to keep comparing it to the WWE because it used to be the WWF, right? Before everyone just came around and accepted that it was entertainment, and they changed it to the WWE, which brings me to this game against the Saints, because this was so funny because they are hurting right now. They're hurting so bad that they're about to sink their claws into the youth very early. They're going to Nickelodeon. They're sliming these guys now. Look, they getting slimed now. Did you see the broadcast? It was so nice and colorful and eye-popping, to keep your attention. because they now know that adults, we've seen this long enough. We know this ain't real competitive football. We know it ain't. And they're getting questioned day by day by not just us in the red community, but the entire sport world is questioning these guys day by day because it's becoming more transparent that they're rigging these games. It's ridiculous what's going on. But it's all just a big stage and a big show. Yeah. All right, and we're going to end this thing off with the script. Right or wrong, we ended it off with the script. That's Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, to have an impressive win against that defense and look like the MVP that he's going to win before throwing it, because that's what they do. They give you the MVP. That means no Super Bowl. Then you got Tom Brady, who's going to outlast Drew Brees. Drew Brees, old man, he's going to fall asleep first. Yep. And then we're going to move on over to Kansas City, who's going to get a comeback win against the Browns. You're going to see the Browns be the Browns, but be protected because it's Patrick Mahomes who's going to be doing the coming back. And then last but not least, we got Lamar Jackson, Superman, and his kryptonite is nowhere near. So he's going to go out there and he's going to look impressive once again as the Ravens win. Yeah, man, this is the script. Believe it or not, it's in your face. They narrated to you. They fooled me. Yeah, they fooled me. I'll give them that one. But now it's time to tighten up. We're going to tighten up. Back to the drawing board. It's one big game, man. Playing chess. Let's get it. It's your guy, Truth Be Told. And I'm out, baby. Peace.